Good morning, everyone. I'm Father Tom Smolich. I'm in my 7th year as the International Director of the Jesuit Refugee Service based in Rome. And I'm thankful and honored to be part of this celebration of the World Day of Migrants and Refugees. And special thanks to all of you at Hekima who did the planning and hard work to make the celebration a reality. I've been asked to give a global perspective on JRS's mission and work. And allow me to do this by looking at 3 different pieces of that picture. 1, the reality. 2, JRS's response to that reality. And finally, some of the challenges and opportunities that we face, which I think are opportunities and challenges for all of us in this particular moment. First of all, setting the scene. Typically, when we think of refugees, we go back to the Geneva Convention of 1951, which offered protection to people who had fled their homelands based on well-grounded fears because of their ethnic background or religion or other categories. The source of that disruption was a single event, World War II. The resolution of a refugee status was a fairly quick one. Many people lived in camps for a brief period of time. And that resolution was most often called resettlement. People could move to a new country to start their lives over again. Single cause, brief resettlement. 70 years later, while that image is still floating in our minds, it is not the true one. Forced displacement these days has multiple causes: climate change, natural disasters, civil war, resource wars, drug wars, chronic poverty and lack of education. All sorts of reasons which push people, which force people to leave their homes. This displacement is not quick. Forced displacement has become a long-term reality for the majority of the 82 million forcibly displaced people in our world. Refugee camps that were supposed to be temporary are now multi-generational, citified realities. If you spend 5 years in a refugee camp, you are most likely to spend 20. 85% of forcibly displaced people live in the developing world, protests of Europe and North America notwithstanding. And finally, the majority of that 82 million people did not leave their own country. They are internally displaced in places like Syria, Colombia, Afghanistan, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Just because they didn't leave their country doesn't mean that their situation is any better. And while resettlement continues to be the dream for many, it is a dream with a closing door over the last decade. Proportionally, the number of people who are resettled each year is small. The current crisis in Afghanistan may bump that up slightly. But the reality is that most people will continue to live where they have arrived. A refugee serving agency like JRS, our primary focus is to offer protection for those vulnerable people who are forcibly displaced. But what that looks like in long-term displacement needs to change, and in fact has changed. JRS was founded in 1980 by Father Pedro Arrupe, the then Superior General of the Society of Jesus. He was moved with compassion by the exodus of Vietnamese refugees in the late 1970s. More than a third of them died in the ocean, leaky boats, pirates, storms, etc. his own experience as a refugee. He'd had to flee his native Spain during the Spanish Civil War. And his experience with working with Korean migrants in Japan and living through the atomic bomb in Hiroshima gave him a compassionate heart in response to this crisis. But even then, while JRS was founded in response to Vietnam, Ethiopians were fleeing famine and arriving in Rome in the early 1980s. And at the same time, we were accompanying Vietnamese refugees in camps. We were offering food and shelter and other services at Centro Astali, connected to the Society of Jesus' home church, the Gesù in Rome. JRS has always been an international reality. When Father Rupe founded JRS, he didn't want us to be like a business, looking at numbers. He insisted that our work be humane, pedagogical, and spiritual. Those three attitudes have been distilled into a word that really describes our way of proceeding these days: accompaniment. JRS walks with forcibly displaced people. We listen to their stories. And from that listening and with those people, we develop the programs and the interventions that make the most sense to give them protection, to restore dignity, to give them and their families hope in a future. This closeness is our hallmark. And I'm so proud of the way JRS does what it does. So what are we doing in this time of extended global displacement? Over the past few years, we have developed a strategic framework that focuses on 4 different types of service or intervention that we think makes the most difference for who we are. A Catholic Jesuit organization, relatively small, where we can make the biggest difference in people's lives. These 4 areas are reconciliation, mental health and psychosocial services, education and livelihoods, and advocacy. Reconciliation is an important theme of Pope Francis, and has been an important directive of the Society of Jesus for many years. Reconciliation means different things in different contexts, but fundamentally it means a reweaving of society, a reweaving or reconnecting communities that have been torn for whatever reason. And this coming together takes place in many contexts. Different refugee communities within a particular refugee community, or refugee communities learning to live with local communities. Our reconciliation work strives to find the commonality in people's experience, and wherever possible, to build that commonality in faith experiences. And for us, it's not enough to talk about faith or commonality. It's to develop projects that benefit all sides, that give more stability and give more opportunity for hope and resilience for locals and refugees together. Psychosocial support. Being forced to leave home is traumatic. And the roads, the journeys that many people take are even more traumatic. When they arrive in a city, in a camp where we do our best to attend to those stories, to listen to the trauma, to listen to the hurt, so that it can be let go of, not forgotten, but not be the primary experience that people live out of. We do this through groups, through play, through art, through individual counseling, all designed to rekindle and reestablish the hope that people had when they left home, so that they continue to build on that hope and offer it to their families and friends. Education and livelihoods. We're a Jesuit group. Of course, we take education seriously. But traditional refugee work puts livelihoods in a different bucket. We see the two of them needing to be joined. Because if you're going to stay in one place, your education needs to be oriented towards success in that place. Employment, or your own business, or participation in the broader society, so that you can put food on the table and send your own kids to school. Obviously, we can't do everything at JRS when it comes to education, but we do focus in some particular areas. One is teacher training, both as employment and to improve overall educational quality. Another is keeping girls in school, especially through high school and university, because a young woman with an education has much better outcomes for herself and her family. Another area is special needs children, often hugely forgotten in many of the areas where we work. And our newest type of intervention, our program is called Pathfinder, is to work with those who have finished high school to help them find the right step forward in terms of employment or self-employment through some training, through looking at opportunities, through finding a job, finding an interest that meets needs in the community where they live. Education can no longer be focused on resettlement, what will look good on my transcript over there. Education needs to focus on building a life here, and we are committed to doing so. Finally, advocacy works on many levels, keeping a particular person safe or struggling to find peace in a number of situations. But most importantly, advocacy aims to give those we serve their own voice, to make them participants in their own future. Through the experience of reconciliation and healing in education and training, they have the voice and vision to say, this is who we are. This is where we want to go. This is how we can fulfill what God invites us to do. Those aren't the only things we do, but it's the focus of what we are doing worldwide. Finally, some opportunities. Now, I think not just for JRS, but for all of us. The first is sustainability. And I look at sustainability in two ways. One is the obvious one. In a world of decreasing resources for marginalized people, of unjust economic structures, how do we keep what we do going? But I think that is even more important when it comes to the people we serve. Unless our programs are sustainable in their quality, in their meeting the needs, we shouldn't be doing what we are doing. Too often, all of us fall into doing the same old, same old. Sustainability means sustaining the lives of those we serve through programs that really make a difference. And I think if we do that, we will find the financial support we need. The second opportunity for all of us is to more deeply involve the people we serve in our work. As I said, we accompany people well. And I think there is an opportunity for us to further involve those we serve in the planning and development of programs. How do we treat people with dignity from the very outset? A lot of times we come in as experts, but those we serve are actually the experts on their own lives. And that expertise needs to be part and parcel of anything we do. And finally, a particular challenge that I'm excited about is making sure that our mission comes from the ground up. It's really important for all of us now to do our best to help local operations, local projects, local staff, local people, to have an ability to discern what they're being called to do, what the Lord is inviting us to do, where we are called to serve best. That can't be something done in Rome or in the country office. It has to be done at the grassroots level. How to do that is not quite clear yet. But isn't that true for all of us, especially for the church right now? in what Pope Francis is trying to do with synodality, to build that sense of mission and evangelization from the ground up. It's our opportunity and challenge as well. Let me end where I began. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this celebration. Thank you for doing what you do on behalf of migrants and refugees. God bless. May the Lord continue to inspire all of us in our work.